If your plant is happy and well looked after, then it's going to grow. And while the pot that you get it in will be the right size at first, after about a year or so, you might find that it needs to be potted up. You can tell if it's outgrown its pot by looking at the roots at the bottom. Now, can you see that they're coming out of the holes in the bottom of the plastic pot here? And that means that they could do with a little more room. You can also tell if the roots come out of the top of the soil, although that's not happening here. So, when you're potting up, you need to put it into a bigger pot and change the compost. This means it'll get new roots, new fertilizer, it'll keep growing even bigger. Now, you don't want to move it into a pot that's massive. This can cause shock. It's kind of the equivalent of going from a 1-bedroom house to a 6-bedroom haunted mansion. You're gonna get a bit freaked out. So, instead, go to a pot that's maybe just a couple of fingers bigger than the one you've currently got. This is perfect. In order to put it into a new pot, you need to take it out of the old one. And there's ways of doing this without damaging the plant. Spread your fingers around the top of the base of the plant like this to try and make sure it keeps as much of the old soil as possible. You will have some soil falling out, and that's why it's good to put newspaper down. Gently tease out the roots, and you can do this by squeezing the plastic pot. And it might be a bit stubborn and it might need a bit of a squeeze. Don't worry if the soil comes out, it's totally normal and you can clear it up afterwards. And can you see that you can tell that this is beginning to be root bound because all of the roots are growing in a circle? Now you can tease these out of this circle, that means they'll be encouraged to grow in a more natural fashion in its new home. Before you put it into a new pot, it's important to put some compost in the pot that you're moving it into. I've done this already, there's about 2 inches of soil in there. And then just pop it into the new pot. You can see that there's a gap of a couple of inches between the rim of the new pot and the crown of the old one. And so now it's just a case of filling up the gaps with new compost. If you don't like getting your hands dirty, you can put some gloves on, but it is a good idea to put newspaper down, especially if you don't have any outdoor space to pot this up. Because I'm using fresh compost, this plant is going to get a hit of nutrients from the new soil. That means you don't need to feed it for a few weeks, probably about 6 weeks. But after that, especially if it's spring or summer, it's important to feed them. And actually, spring or summer is the best time to repot your plants because that's when they're going to put on the most new growth. So, I've nearly filled this up now, and I'm patting it down because that means when you water it, there's not going to be a huge gulf between the top of the pot and the soil. And the other thing I would say is that whenever you're potting plants up, make sure that they're always in a pot that's got holes for drainage at the bottom. This is so important. You need to be able to let the water run out. If you don't, you're just going to rot the roots at the bottom of your plant. That doesn't mean you can't put it in a decorative pot afterwards, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. But first, and this is especially because it's been repotted, I'm going to give it a really good drink. And just like we said in level 1, when you're watering, give it a huge drink to the extent that water will start running out at the bottom of the plant. And it's important not to let your newly potted plant sit in that runoff. So I'm just gonna put this in the sink. And there you have it, newly potted plant. Now it's just time to clean up. And if your plant is too big to hold in your hands, you can carry them outside or lay down lots of newspaper, and you can remove it from its decorative pot and then roll it round on its side, where you can gently tap and remove the pot that way. You want to loosen the roots, just like we did with this one, and gently slide the pot backwards. And then get an even bigger pot and repeat the same process. In the next lesson of the Patch Houseplant Parenting course, we'll be learning about propagation, or how to make new plants from your existing ones.